Hello and welcome to episode 5, part 2 of MMM Sister Stories podcast. This week we'll continue on Sister Ruth Percival's journey as an MMM sister. Have a good weekend and thank you for listening.
I mean, it's amazing, really. I've often thought that MMM will help you to get to wherever you want to go. And just this life of, of travel and meeting all these new people in all these new situations and, learning things about countries that, that there weren't just names before we went. Or I know nowadays the world news is better, but even in those days, we didn't know places, or we didn't know. Oh, and we met President Nyerere. He used to stay in a house when he was in town, opposite to our house. That was when he was in the town, and he used to go to Mass every morning for the 7 o'clock Mass, and his security, quite fierce looking. But anyway, we'd be turning out onto the road and they'd be waving to us. Whereas in town, they wouldn't obviously acknowledge us. But, he invited us over. And interestingly, he told a chapter of ours that we weren't to expect too many vocations because we had a double calling. We had the missionary calling and the medical calling. So he said, I think, don't be expecting. It's very, 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 a very thoughtful sort of statement, really. And I mean, to actually be able to see somebody getting better, it is amazing. And to see what our hands and a bit of this knowledge can do, like that we've been taught. I mean, it is amazing. But I think, just the travel, nowadays travel is not like it used to be. Nowadays it's it's just horrible, I think. Whereas in the olden days, it was much more relaxed. And when we first went out, makes me sound if I went out in a balloon. But, well, obviously the first one is the climate crisis, which is not being helped by COP28. I have no idea what went on today. I know they were staying an extra day, but I have no idea what happened today. I've had a bit of a busy day, but it's the climate crisis. Like there were photographs of Tanzania near to part of the road that we would have gone on from Makyungu to Arusha. And those were the pictures that they were showing on the BBC. And I mean, they were just, and like, okay, look in England, look here in Ireland, and with the tornado, for heaven's sake, and other places. And you realise that people are getting on and getting, clearing up and doing this and doing that. But how are they going to be able to do it? And this is in all these poor places, and they're not being listened to at COP. They're not being listened to. And there's been more money, more money promised. I hope they get it. Because there's people now that have still not got houses since the Pakistani floods, all those years ago. Afghanistan and 3 earthquakes in 1 week. But we didn't hear about it because of Gaza. It's terrifying. And what is so awful about it is we've known for so long, and people have denied it for so long. It really, really, really upsets me. And then you say, well, what can you do? And you try and, do the little that you can do, but I don't know. It's very hard sitting in this position, imagining that. Also, my other anxiety for the sisters on the missions is travel will no longer be as easy as it has been. Not because of finances. I mean, it's huge finances, but because of visas. And like we've had this freedom to go backwards and forth. Okay, it's taken 6 months for me to get this visa, but you've got it. You have it and you go with it, and that's you set up. But nowadays, and the importance, I think the importance of us maybe going over to, just the sharing of the different countries that we have done very naturally until now. I have a great fear of that not happening. And that'll change the face of MMM to an extent. I know we're all technically, well, we can do Zoom and all this sort of thing. It's not the same as getting hold of somebody and giving them a hug, and sitting down over a cup of tea. I was offered a year in the States straight after. So I left Tanzania in September and I arrived in Chicago into 18 inches of snow on the 4th of January. And the woman who interviewed those of us who were from overseas, she went down to the faculty afterwards and she said, I've got a woman up there. She said she's been boiling her water on 3 stones outside the back door for the last 12 years. And now she's upstairs. What are we going to do? I forgot to tell you we boiled our water on 3 stones outside the back door. Anyway, and that was in Maas Island, of course. So I was in the States and I had wanted to really do something in England. But anyway, I was offered this very Rolls-Royce sort of a course. But before that, I'd been asked would I do the mission appeals. I said I would do them only if I wasn't the main driver. So who was the main driver? I was the main driver. 5,000 miles. I'll never forget it, never. On the wrong side of the road. No, it was, all the church. The American people are very welcoming. They're very caring, very kind, generous. Very generous. But it was very difficult because you didn't know where you were going to end up, with whom you were going to end up. Anyway, that was beside the point. Then I was to go to this wonderful Rolls-Royce course, and I went to see the place. And I was told, get there first. Don't be late, because it's a very small room. And if you're last, you'll get it. So I said, right. So I checked out. I said, oh, gosh, that's the small room there. I bet that's the small room. Anyway, they showed me around and everything, and I realised it wasn't the small room. But the rooms faced an alley wall. An alley wall. I felt my spirit being crushed. And I mean, I'm not exaggerating. I just thought, me who've been used to the sunrises and the sunsets and the sound of the lion on the step. No way. I just said I couldn't do it. So they said, all right, where else would you like to go? I said, I ended up in Minnesota, in a very nice place in Minnesota where the Mississippi sang as it went past us. It was a very nice place. It was a very good course. So that was that. So then I returned to England and I went to Ealing, to London, to Ealing, and to sisters who I hadn't lived with before. And I wasn't feeling very strong at the time. And I thought, oh, how's this going to be? But anyway, they were very welcoming, of course. And I got on all right. And then it was decided that we needed to buy a house in the Birmingham Archdiocese. So I was sent off with Maura Magna. I don't know whether you've ever met her over in Norris, but anyway, she and I were sent off to look for a house in the Archdiocese of Birmingham. Now we were introduced to the manager, the building manager, or what, not the housing manager, or whatever it was called. So we sat down, and he said, "Now, sisters, have either of you bought a house before?" No. Anyway, he realised that we really needed quite a bit of guidance. So he said he did visit us a couple. Anyway, we eventually, the two of us, we saw a house on the day that we thought we were closing on another one, and he was coming, and we saw this house. It was a lovely house, beautiful, lovely people, and there we were. So we, oh yes, but this wasn't in Birmingham; it was in Solihull, and the people said, "Solihull, what are you doing in Solihull?" Or Solihull, as some of them call it. That's a very rich place. Why haven't you gone to Sparkbrook or Spark Hill? Well, we didn't go to Sparkbrook or Spark Hill because the only thing they didn't steal out of the house was the door. Apparently, other sisters had been there and had everything taken more than once. But the thing was, in this house in Solihull, we were 3 minutes off the main motorway, north-south. It was perfect. So anyway, I've been there a while and see people in the mornings, and they would, like this, looking for numbers on the houses. They were asylum seekers. They were looking for the Home Office, which of course we didn't know was there. So eventually I said, right. And one morning there was this woman, my own age, at Mass, and I said, we both found out we both wanted to do something for the asylum seekers. And this was another of my big impacts, even though I'm taking a long time to get there. I said to Pauline, I said, I want to find out, does Solihull Churches Together have anything for the asylum seekers? So our parish priest said, there's nothing, but there's a meeting on Wednesday. I'll bring it up. That meeting, we got 7 volunteers. That meeting, that Wednesday meeting, we ended up with nearly 70 altogether. We used to go and stand in the queue, this huge long queue, out of the building, up across the patio, up the steps, along the pavement, to talk to people. I'll just give you one example of something. This particular day, I had told a woman from a long way away that I would save her a place in the queue if she was late. She had 3 small children. And so I was letting people go. I said, please go ahead. I'm waiting for somebody. Go ahead, I'm waiting for somebody. And eventually this young man said to me, he says, what are you doing it for? What are you doing this for? And I said, because we care. I said, we care so much about you and wonder what's happening and what, you know. He just shook his head. He said, nobody has ever said they cared about me before. And that was our experience, day in, day out. You know, we only opened twice a week, but eventually we were able to take people into the parish hall and give them drinks and soup and toast and clothes and whatever they needed. And we signposted them to different places, because that to me was a big impact. But worse than that, because I was doing these mission appeals in England now, didn't our church that we just joined, wasn't it on the list? And so the other two said, I'll do this one, and you can do that. You can do the 9 o'clock, because that'll be the big one to me. I said, okay. So I went to the church. The children were all wearing white. I said, it's not a First Communion day, is it? No, it's the party day. They had First Communion last week. So I stood up there and I talked about the Messiah and, you know, all the rest, about the work and all the rest. The head teacher was there. It's not her parish, but she was there because of it being the party day. So she called me afterwards. She said, you've got to come down to the school and you've got to talk to the children. I went to the school and I asked them questions. I always ask questions. That's how I do it with questions. And I said, now, tell me, does anybody remember me talking in church last week? Yes, sister, yes, sister. What did I talk about? You talked about Lolera. Well, the teachers had their mouths open. They couldn't believe the children remembered. So that began a relationship for me with the school. And I went once a week to listen to children read, 5-year-olds. Oh yeah, they're little magicals, but they're little hooligans as well, I soon discovered. Oh, really, there was such fun. But, you know, it was to see both sides of them, you know, they'd be so funny. So, and the staff were wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. They supported Masailand. They undertook support Masailand and actually built a teacher's house. Oh, it was absolutely, so that really was a big impact as well. And I also was asked by my parish in Derby to arrange, could I possibly arrange for the students who finished their A-levels to go over for a few months. I said, boys, no problem, I could fix it this week. The girls, it'll be more of a problem because the school is in the middle of the town. But anyway, we did that and it literally kept going till COVID. I mean, yeah, we had so many go out, and there was one fella that I hadn't seen for a while. And I said, I thought you'd forgotten about this group and Arusha. Sister, what do you mean? He says, why do you think I'm doing what I'm doing? I said, well, what are you doing? He says, I'm teaching primary school because of Arusha. You know, so you just, that sort of, anyway. So there was that as well, that had an impact. And then the other big impact that I had was I joined a group of women who played badminton. I'd never played badminton. I was a tennis player, a very good tennis player. But I joined this group, and after about 2 years, this woman came into the group. She was lovely. They were a lovely group. She came into the group and said, are you a nan? They couldn't get over it. They couldn't get over it. So what could I say? Yes, so those were impacts that I really have appreciated. And yesterday I got a text from one of the first girls to go to Arusha. Her husband, he wasn't her husband then, but he was one of the first boys. And she sent me a picture of a crib. And I said, oh, that's nice. And there's a card standing by the crib. She said, that's the card you sent us in 2016. It always comes out with the crib. Now, beautiful, beautiful relationships. Well, like everybody else. Peace, please, peace, peace, peace. How could we not want that? It's just this year, interestingly enough, probably not, I have failed to do any Christmas cards till now. And today, just before I came up here, I was closing a bag of things for my family, my sister and her son and daughter and children. And all I can think of is Jesus, the little Palestinian baby. So I will not be sending any normal Christmas cards this year. I'm sending the dove of peace. It's just so painful. And somebody said, so that's my last word.
Thank you for listening to MMM Sister Stories. Tune in next week for episode 6.